Aloha nerds and welcome back to the Salawog's Why It's Great Gut Reaction. I'm your host, the Salawog, and I watch things and react from the gut. I just finished watching the first season of Miss Marvel on Disney Plus. Gotta say, I really enjoyed it. For those who don't know, the premise for Miss Marvel is about Kamala Khan, a young Muslim American teenager who discovers amongst her grandmother's left behind things an amulet which activates powers. So she now has this sort of hard light developing power where she can send light solid generated objects around which she can either jump on, hop out of, or she can sort of generate light based limbs, sort of like the Green Lantern, out of her body. Now, this is a complete deviation from the comics because in the comic books, her power is literally a combination of Mr. Fantastic and Ant-Man, where she can elongate and stretch and change her body size and shape. Now, I did not read the comic. I read one issue. I'll say I read one issue. And Miss Marvel came out at a time where there was still a lot of animosity against Muslims. Not saying that there isn't still anymore, but at the time that it came out, the animosity toward Muslims was still very high. And culture had not quite changed yet. 2022 is a very different time, socially, politically. Maybe in the real world there are still a lot of these prejudices, but the media did not reflect, I would say, the way I think a lot of people feel about various cultures. And certainly if you're in the mix, if you're from somewhere like San Francisco like I am, then you're in the melting pot of cultures and you're not so shocked or surprised to see people of various colors, ethnicities, cultures, and all that. And definitely the media at the time that Miss Marvel came out reflected that, where people were still afraid of Muslims. Muslims were terrorists and villains all the time. And the one issue I did pick up of the original Miss Marvel comic was, I thought, really brilliant, because here we have this teenager growing up in a particular time, the post 9/11 decade, where very much people are freshly afraid of Muslims. And she's having identity issues. You know, she's super skinny. And if you know Muslims, they have a lot of different. I've grown up with Muslims as my babysitters, as my best friends in college and high school. And, there's a lot of things going on there. They're really, especially if you're Muslim American, born in America, you're just another American who just happens to have a religious leaning. But here she is with this very specific cultural identity. And in this particular issue that I picked up, she had just, in the previous issue, tried to change her body to look like a blonde, attractive, voluptuous woman, which is the then, considered media attractive person. But obviously things have sort of changed since then. In the last 10 years since the comic book came out, we have plus size models, the much bigger emergence and appreciation. I mean, even at the time, we still had Tyra Banks, and she had her own show and all that stuff. But the diversity in media has definitely changed since then, and it's a different time now. But at the time, she was trying to be this type of person. And the issue I was reading, she was dealing with the consequences of trying to change her body, and she hadn't actually mastered this body changing power yet. So what had happened was her body just started elongating and falling all over the place. And it was really it was a very comedic episode with her struggling to do her powers. I would say from this one issue, what the show definitely captured was the comedic angle of how she struggles to deal with her powers, because it really was a fun issue to read. And I do wish I'd picked up more. And it was just exciting to watch that this show captured that part very well. And I understand the need to change her power because, A, we're waiting on the Fantastic Four. That's coming soon. And we don't want to take the steam away from that. But also, it is more exciting, and especially with her name being Miss Marvel, you, from the audience perspective that only knows Captain Marvel from the movies, the MCU film and TV audience is expecting more of a Captain Marvel like ability, especially if she's supposed to team up with the other Marvel ladies and go on adventures that are up to their tier of power and enemies. So I get the need to change the power for those reasons. What I do want to say is, although I would say the first 4 episodes I wasn't quite digging, mostly because of that first issue, that one issue I had read. I really related to the Kamala who was having these body issues, who was having this sort of real discomfort. It made her so relatable. I mean, although I may appear to you as this the cis white male who is so privileged and knows everything, and I'm actually I'm mixed. I'm Samoan, Hawaiian, Chinese, and Scottish, and that's just on my father's side. Yes, obviously, the pale man is here, but growing up, people were literally telling me that there was something wrong with me. I grew up way too big. I was much bigger than the other kids of my age. I was I was told by everybody something's wrong. My parents would hear from everybody, something's wrong with your kid. Something's wrong with your kid. And then she would tell him he's Samoan. That's where he's 10 years old, but he's wearing adult-sized clothes because he is Samoan and Hawaiian. He comes from a bigger breed of human being. And so it was just very strange growing up to the point where I was 14 years old in high school, just wearing the same clothes everyone else was, and people thought I was a teacher. So I really, for those types of reasons, appreciated the Miss Marvel character who was not happy with her body, was not happy with how she looked, and felt like a stranger in the world. And that's just one thing. That's just talking about body and appearance and what you think about yourself, and just off of one issue. So while my disappointment with the show in the first 4 episodes is that this is much more of a Disney show, I really feel like this is so much more of a kind of a Lizzie McGuire type of show, which is fine. That's fine. But I love the Marvel brand of storytelling, which is people have problems that are relatable and real. What I do like is by episode 5, we get this whole backstory to the amulet, where we see actually her great grandparents and the things they were going through in India during the time of the revolution and the depowering of the British Empire. And to think that that was only 80 years ago now, at the time of the comic coming out, 70 years ago, at the time of me growing up with Smallville and superhero shows in 2060 years ago, within the lifetime of an older person, you know what I mean, a person who's older than me, within a lifetime, society and the world has changed so much. But seeing that little story, I thought was fantastic. Episode 5 is my favorite episode, I would say. If you're a person who is not happy with the Disney-ish Lizzie McGuire-ness of the first 4 episodes of Miss Marvel, stick through it, because episode 5 and 6 are so worth it. And 6, for the superhero fan, is like the WandaVision finale. I feel that episode 6 does this great job of sort of building up the mythos of people being afraid of superpowered people. And we get, spoiler alert, spoiler, right now, it's a spoiler. We get this sort of tie-in with the mutants. So we know Scarlet Witch is the daughter of Magneto, a mutant. And although this is another inaccuracy, Miss Marvel is originally an Inhuman. She's not a mutant. So they're changing things around again. But that's fine. Whatever. You already changed her power, so might as well go all the way. But this whole setting up of society being afraid of mutants and trying to have a plan for how to deal with superpowered people on a regular basis, it's cool. So this is world building. We're getting to the bigger world of Marvel. So that's really my gut reaction. I really, the first 4 episodes were fine. There's nothing bad about them necessarily, but I didn't feel the personal pull. I don't feel like the personal story was there. And the plot, there's some clandestines, there's some bad guys, there's some plot twists. A lot of stuff we've seen already done better in other superhero media. I'm not really going to get into that. But it's twists and turns we've seen before. I'm not going to. We've seen it so much when you watch it, you're going to see it if you've seen the movies in the last 10 years, superhero movies in the last 10 years. You're like, oh, I know this premise. I know where it goes. Oh, you're going that way. Oh, okay, that's expected. Okay, blah, 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 blah. A lot of blah, 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 blah for the plot. But the story and where it led to for episode 5, I felt very satisfactory. And I felt that the reveal of the costume was very heartwarming and touching. They didn't spend too much time on the costume. I hate when superhero movies and shows just dedicate so much time on trying to justify the outfit. It's like, it comes with the damn territory. Just put them in the outfit and get them out there and get them kicking ass, okay? I really like the conclusion that we start off with her as a Captain Marvel fan, putting together a goofy fan outfit, and then by the end, the way I won't spoil how she gets her final costume, but the way she gets it is touching and really connects the story together very well. I felt the last 2 episodes of Miss Marvel were genuine Marvel stuff. You know, I'm all for exploring the world and getting to know more about cultures. I'm glad the plot went that way. The same with Moon Knight. I've been very impressed with Marvel actually getting filmmakers who are talented filmmakers who are actually the race or religion of the characters that they're trying to portray. Like that gives a little bit of comfort to their presentation, where you feel a sense of authenticity to it. I think it's been a long time coming for Hollywood to do that. I think I gotta applaud Kevin Feige for not just saying words that sound good and then going on with business as usual. I think that's the worst thing that most bosses do in most workplaces, but especially, again, in the realm of media. Not just saying, oh, well, I got one of the darker toned people in the movie, so that means I'm not racist. You know what I mean? But actually hiring people qualified to do the job, who are good storytellers, who tell a good story. I want more things like episode 5. If they could make episode 5 with superpowers as a full show, that to me is true Marvel and what Marvel should be. So that's what I got to say. This show is also, again, this is more for kids. It's not really for the older male demographic, I would say. It's really much more for younger audiences, kids, and the young teen, male or female, definitely female, but it could go either way. As a young kid, I didn't care if a superhero was a girl or not. You know what I mean? It's just like, just be a superhero and do the thing. All the old ideas of what the young man wants, and that's the demographic, and blah blah blah. I mean, that was just so childish and immature, and we grow as society and figure out what's what. But I think this really is more oriented toward kids. I think, like Runaways, I think Miss Marvel is like Lizzie McGuire. Runaways is like Animorphs. This kind of this right in the middle. Adults can watch it, but kids can watch it too. And then you get to something like Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, which maybe this is more for the older adult watcher, but it has an accessible character who is a younger person as well. But I would definitely say, give me more of the last 2 episodes of this show. I think that's, you can still travel the world, explore cultures, but just that kind of stuff is what I'm talking about for what Marvel should be. Really good storytelling, and appropriate usage of powers in a way that, don't do the laser beam shooting into the sky again. For the love of God, don't do the laser beam shooting into the sky. These people have powers and they're using them for a reason. When the Green Goblin is killing people, he's trying to protect his business. It's messed up, but he has a motivation that makes sense. So I like that this villain had a motivation that made sense. I didn't like the twists and the turns. I didn't think they were very good. But the reveal of the 5th episode, I think, very good storytelling. Really interesting story. A little history lesson for people. That kind of stuff is what I'm into as far as what media should be, what storytelling should be. And yeah, so I'm really recommending the last 2 episodes of this. But hey, check it out. I can't wait for She-Hulk. I grew up as a 90s kid, did not read a lot of the comics, but Love the cartoons. Just the best cartoons were for the 90s kids of America. Spider-Man, X-Men, Hulk, Batman, Superman, Justice League. The best decade and a half of superhero cartoon animated television ever. And I gotta say, the movies and shows are starting to get there. Since Infinity War and Deadpool, we're finally getting the stuff we've been waiting for. So anyway, that's my lazy Saturday gut reaction for you guys. Peace be upon you, as the Muslims say. And yo. Oh yeah, remember, don't like, don't subscribe, and don't comment, because I don't care. This is just to get the crazy voices out of my head. Yee!